If you're a man who has ever felt overlooked by successful, attractive women, if you've ever watched from the sidelines thinking you couldn't possibly compete with the guy with the six-figure salary, the fancy car and the corner office, then you need to listen very closely. The game is changing in a way that almost no one is talking about. A quiet but powerful revolution is happening in the world of dating, and it's being led by women over 40 who have their lives completely together. And you, the man who might consider himself average, the man who has spent years focusing on his character more than his wallet, on being reliable rather than ruthless, you might suddenly be exactly who they're looking for. This isn't a fantasy, it's a profound strategic shift. For a rapidly growing number of financially secure, accomplished women, the definition of the perfect partner has been completely turned upside down. They're consciously and intentionally looking past the high-flying CEOs and the charismatic entrepreneurs. Instead, they're choosing men who bring something far more valuable, far more essential to the table. This isn't about her settling for less. In her eyes, and for her life, it is a strategic, powerful, and deeply intentional upgrade. Let's explore exactly why that is. For decades, society sold women a very specific story, a narrative reinforced in every movie, every magazine, and every fairy tale. The power couple. The formula was simple and direct. A successful woman was supposed to want an equally, if not more, successful man. This idea is partly rooted in a social science concept called hypergamy, the tendency to seek a partner of a higher social or economic status. For a very long time, this made perfect practical sense. It was a strategy for survival and security. Think about it. In their 20s and 30s, women were often handed a checklist for finding what was called a high-value man. Great job? Check. High. Income? Check. Impressive car, prestigious address, a life that looked good on paper. Check, check, and check. This was the widely accepted model of success, and many men felt the immense pressure to live up to it, just as women felt the pressure to find and secure it. But for the wave of women now entering their 40s and beyond, that story is becoming a myth. It's a relic of a bygone era. After 2 decades spent building careers, achieving hard-won financial independence, and gaining real-world, often painful experience, that old checklist is being thrown out. Why? Because a woman who has already built her own empire, whether big or small, plays by a completely different set of rules. She has written her own story of success, and now she's looking for a co-author, not a sponsor. Her focus is no longer on finding a provider, it's on finding a true partner. Once a man proves he isn't a financial liability, that he has his own life together, his specific income level becomes far less important than the content of his character. This isn't a rejection of a man's ambition. It's a rejection of the outdated idea that a man's professional status or his bank account is the primary measure of his worth as a human being. These women have learned from experience, sometimes the hard way, that the man with the 7-figure income might come with an emotional deficit so large that no amount of money can ever hope to fill it. They've lived the reality that a partner who complements you is infinitely more valuable than a partner who simply completes a picture of success. And they're finding this complement, this missing piece, in the man who might not have the flashiest resume, but who brings a wealth of something far more valuable: peace, partnership, and genuine, undivided presence. So, what is it about the so-called average guy that is proving to be the secret ingredient to a happy life? Let's break down the 3 powerful reasons behind this profound shift. The first reason for this shift isn't really about the average man at all. It's about the soul-crushing exhaustion these women feel after years, sometimes decades, of dating men at the top of the social ladder. They chase the ideal they were told to want. They reach for the prize only to find that the summit was often a lonely, disappointing, and emotionally barren place. A primary and recurring complaint is the epidemic of emotional unavailability. The same relentless, all-consuming drive that makes a man a titan of industry often leaves little to no room for genuine intimacy. His life is his work. His primary focus is on conquering markets, closing deals, and winning negotiations, not on connecting with a partner on a deep emotional level. For the accomplished woman in his life, the relationship can feel less like a partnership and more like an appointment squeezed between a board meeting and a flight to another conference. She often starts to feel like a beautiful, intelligent accessory, a valuable addition to his impressive portfolio, but an addition nonetheless. This creates a profound and painful sense of loneliness within the relationship itself. Then there's the relentless, unspoken competition. Dating a man who is widely considered a catch often means the woman feels like she's in a constant, never-ending audition. It turns the organic process of dating from a journey of authentic connection into a game of strategy. Don't appear too needy. Be endlessly fascinating and witty. Always look perfect, and somehow secure a commitment from a man who may be fundamentally allergic to it. For a woman in her 40s who has built a life of substance and self-worth, this is utterly draining and, frankly, demeaning. She isn't looking to be a prize that is won, she's looking for a partner to build a life with. This exhaustion is multiplied tenfold by the modern dating arena, the apps. Dating app fatigue is a well-recognized phenomenon. A 2024 Forbes Health survey found that a staggering 80% of women report feeling burned out from the experience of using dating apps. For women over 40, this is especially true. The profiles of so-called high-status men can become a monotonous, predictable blur of superficial signals. The guy leaning on a rented Porsche, the guy on a sailboat surrounded by younger women, the guy with his CEO title displayed like a badge of honor. It feels like a performance, a carefully curated and ultimately shallow presentation of a life, not the actual person living it. This digital fatigue makes these women crave the exact opposite, not curated perfection, but messy, authentic reality. Not a brand, but a human being. Ultimately, this all points to a massive and irreconcilable value mismatch. A woman in her 40s has typically done significant and difficult work on herself. She's been through challenges, she's learned from her mistakes, and she now values honest communication, vulnerability, and mutual support above all else. Too often, the chase for a high-status man leads her to someone who hasn't done this crucial internal work. He might have a high IQ, but his EQ is lagging far behind. He knows how to build a business, but he doesn't know how to build a relationship. He's still operating on an old model where value is defined by external achievements, while she has evolved to understand that true, lasting value is internal. They are speaking two completely different emotional languages, and she is no longer willing to act as a translator. The chase, she finally realizes, was for the wrong thing all along. When a woman in her 40s consciously turns away from the exhausting pursuit of the top-tier man, she isn't settling. She's making a deliberate, strategic pivot. She is redirecting her energy towards qualities that she has learned, through lived experience, are the true cornerstones of a happy, peaceful, and lasting partnership. This is precisely where the man who might consider himself average becomes the unexpected hero of the story. His appeal isn't in what he lacks in superficial status, but in what he possesses in quiet abundance. His greatest superpower is his emotional intelligence and availability. The high-status man's calendar was his priority. For this man, the relationship itself often is the priority. Because his entire identity isn't precariously tied up in a C-suite title or the next promotion, he has more emotional bandwidth. He has the time, and more importantly, the mental and emotional space to be genuinely present. He listens to understand her, not just to formulate his response. He's genuinely curious about her day, her thoughts, her worries, and her wins. He isn't intimidated by her success. He's proud of it and celebrates it as her partner, not as a competitor. This emotional availability creates the second crucial element, a profound and deeply craved sense of consistency and safety. The high-stakes dating world is a rollercoaster of exhilarating highs and crushing lows. This man offers the antidote: stability. He is reliable. His actions consistently align with his words. This isn't boring. It's the very foundation of trust. For a woman who likely navigates a high-stress professional world, her relationship needs to be a place of peace, not another battlefield. She doesn't want more drama. She wants a calm harbour. The steady, dependable nature of a man who is grounded in himself is a balm for her soul. His appeal is also deeply rooted in his authenticity. As we discussed, dating app fatigue is driven by the endless parade of fake, curated, and performance-based profiles. The average man's profile often feels refreshingly real. It might feature a picture of him happily hiking with his dog, laughing at a family barbecue, or covered in the sawdust from a weekend woodworking project. He isn't trying to sell an image of an unattainable jet-setting lifestyle. He's simply presenting himself honestly. In a sea of men desperately trying to be an archetype of success, the man who is just a man becomes incredibly compelling. It signals that what you see is what you get. He isn't trying to impress, he's trying to connect. Finally, and most importantly, he offers a genuine partnership of equals. A man in his 40s or 50s, regardless of his career path, has lived a life. He understands mortgages, aging parents, career setbacks, and the complex realities of being an adult. This shared experience creates a foundation of being peers. The relationship isn't about status acquisition, it's about life enrichment. It's about finding someone who values a quiet Tuesday night on the couch talking about your days just as much as a fancy night out. A recent Hinge survey powerfully supports this, revealing that an overwhelming 72% of women care more about a partner's effort in building a relationship than the size of their paycheck. This man is the one, putting in that consistent, genuine effort, proving day in and day out that his primary investment is in the relationship itself. The final and most profound reason for this seismic shift has less to do with men and everything to do with the women themselves. It's about their deep, internal evolution, a radical and unapologetic redefinition of what value even means in a partner. This change is powered by two of the most potent forces in a woman's life: her own financial independence and the clarifying wisdom that only comes from experience. The most critical catalyst in this entire equation is her financial independence. For centuries, and for the vast majority of human history, marriage was primarily an economic proposition for women. But for a woman in her 40s today who has spent 2 decades building her own career and financial security, that necessity is gone. She isn't looking for a man to pay her bills, fund her lifestyle, or provide her with status. She can do all of that for herself. This economic autonomy is a superpower. It liberates her to choose a partner based purely on desire, connection, and genuine compatibility. She can afford to date a man who is a teacher, an artist, or a skilled tradesman because his worth is not defined by his income bracket. The focus shifts from needing a provider to simply not wanting a dependent. This liberation allows for a complete and total overhaul of the value equation. The very definition of a high-value man undergoes a monumental shift. It's no longer about who can provide the most resources, but who can provide the most peace. The new metrics of value are internal, not external. Kindness becomes a currency more precious than gold. Empathy is the new luxury. A shared sense of humor is more valuable than a luxury car. the ability to communicate and handle conflict with maturity, these are the new non-negotiables. A report from Hinge confirms this exact trend, identifying the top traits women seek as emotional availability, respect for their emotional needs, and consistent communication. Money, status, and power cannot buy a single one of these things. This redefinition is cemented by the powerful, often painful, lessons of lived experience. Women over 40 have a PhD in reality. They have likely seen firsthand in their own lives or the lives of their friends that a big house does not guarantee a happy home. They may have been in long-term relationships where all the external markers of success were present, but emotional connection and support were completely absent. Divorce, in particular, is a brutal but incredibly effective teacher. After a painful separation, very few women say, "I just wish he had made more money." They mourn the lack of connection, the absence of support, the loneliness, and the feeling of being in it all alone. This hard-won wisdom makes them infinitely better at spotting what leads to genuine, sustainable fulfillment. Ultimately, for a successful woman over 40, choosing a so-called average man is a courageous act of breaking free from decades of social programming. It's a powerful rejection of the outdated patriarchal idea that a woman's value is somehow reflected by the status of the man on her arm. This woman is defining success on her own terms, and that includes her relationships. Her choice of partner is no longer about seeking external validation. It's about building a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good from the outside. So, when we see a successful, vibrant woman over 40 choosing a man who seems, by society's outdated and superficial standards, to be average, we are not witnessing a compromise. We're witnessing an evolution. We're seeing a woman operating from a place of profound strength, unshakable wisdom, and deep self-worth. She is choosing this man for 3 powerful, interconnected reasons. First, she's completely burned out from the ego-driven, emotionally hollow, and performative world of high-status dating. Second, she's discovered the immense, soul-deep appeal of the man who offers the true treasures of a partnership: emotional availability, unwavering consistency, and refreshing authenticity. And third, because she has achieved her own success and built her own security, she has radically redefined value, shifting her focus from a man's financial statement to the depth and quality of his character. This isn't about women lowering their standards. It's about them raising them to a completely different level. It's about elevating the standards for kindness, respect, partnership, and emotional connection far above the superficial markers of success we were all taught to prioritize. So for the man who is focused on being a good person, on developing his character, on being reliable, kind, and emotionally present, your time is now. This shift is the ultimate power move for women, and it's a massive opportunity for you. She is choosing an upgrade, not for her lifestyle, but for her soul. Now I want to hear from you, especially the men watching. Does this resonate with your own experiences? Have you ever felt that your best qualities, your kindness, your loyalty, your stability, your sense of humour, were overlooked in the dating market in favour of guys with more flash and less substance? Let me know in the comments below. Your stories and perspectives are what make this community so powerful. And if this conversation opened your eyes, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We have many more deep dives into modern dating, relationships, and understanding the new rules of the game coming your way.